Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Several people tipped me off to a story in Jalopnik, which I kind of knew about because I got interviewed for it. But Tom McParland wrote it, posted it, and I didn't catch it before two people, including Gayla and Gene, sent it to me and said, "Hey, Steve, there's a story here I think you'll be interested in." What's always funny is when people send me stories and they go, "Hey, have you seen this yet?" And they don't realize that I'm in the story. But these people caught it. And then I got an email last night from another friend of mine who said, "Steve, you got mentioned in a story on Jalopnik." And I wrote him back. I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Did you catch they misspelled your name?" I said, "I didn't even catch that. I'm sorry." But people can be forgiven for switching the H and the T. We don't see the HT letter combination a lot in the English language as much as we see TH. So apparently some car dealers think it's okay to detain customers against their will. And Tom McParland wrote it. Tom McParland is the guy, I've mentioned him before. He specializes in finding and helping people buy cars. So you find a car for you, and he'll negotiate the sale for you and get it. He does the dirty work for you when buying a new car if you want him to. So Tom McParland's a great guy. I've known him for a long time. You would think that by 2021, car dealers would have wised up and fixed the broken mess that is car shopping. Many stores have adapted, but some are still relying on classic stealership tricks. One of the most egregious is preventing someone from leaving the showroom. This is actually something, I remember this being discussed in law school. So this is something that's been going around for a long time. Maybe not as often as it used to, but it still happens. And the fact that it still happens is scary. So imagine going to a local big box store for a specific item, only to learn when you get there that the price isn't as good as you thought. On your way out, the manager sends some goons to block the exit and demands that you take that deal right now. You go, that's crazy. But car dealerships, not so crazy. So a Jalopnik reader who is a Maryland consumer protection attorney named Daniel Whitney Jr., and I do not know Mr. Whitney, but he sounds like he's doing the Lord's work, told Tom about two recent cases his firm handled in which dealerships resorted to false imprisonment in an attempt to force a customer to take a deal that's clearly not in the buyer's best interest. And, there's a thing about this. It's a spectrum, right? It's a scale. And I've heard of stories before where they'll try really hard to keep you from leaving, but usually by just using mental pressure, right? Oh, you don't want to leave. Oh, no. And they'll gather around somebody and they won't block you so much as they'll just kind of get in your way, or they'll really, really browbeat you, or they'll really, really try to just sit there and argue with you and cajole you. And so the question is, how far out of their way will they go to stop you from leaving? Because most states have got a tort called false imprisonment. And false arrest is where I come up and I go, you're under arrest. But if I lock you in a room or lock you in a building or keep you from leaving a place against your will, that can be false imprisonment, and that's not good. So those cases arose when a dealership was attempting to force a customer to take a deal that's clearly not in the buyer's best interest. And by the way, it doesn't matter. You have the right to turn down a deal. You don't have to buy a car. You don't have to buy a car. So on Mr. Whitney's blog post, he described one of the cases as this. After signing a contract for a new car, our client realized she'd been charged more than she'd agreed to pay. The resulting dispute led to the car dealer manager trying to force her to sign paperwork that she did not want to sign and was not necessary, given that the sale had been completed. She refused, and despite the threats of the manager, went back to her car to try and leave. However, when she returned to her car, she found herself blocked in by another car that the manager had an employee parked directly in front of her. It was only after calling the police that the dealership allowed her to leave. So she actually said, "I'm going to leave." Walks out to her car and finds it's been blocked in by a dealership car. The customer then contacted Mr. Whitney's firm, and they were able to settle the case with the dealership for $100,000. He also told Tom about another case in which a woman took her car in for service and showed interest in a new car deal, only to have the dealer hide the keys to her trade-in for hours until she was forced to call the police. That hide the keys trick is actually something in the business known as the hide the keys trick. Not joking. You talk to an attorney who deals with automobile dealerships. They'll go, "Oh yeah, the old hide the keys trick." And it's like the hidden baseball trick in baseball. It's just something that's been around for hundreds of years. But you bring in your car for trade. You're thinking about buying a car. They go, "Hand us the keys. We're going to take it around back, have it appraised." You hand them the keys. They take the car around back, and they go, "Yeah, your trade-in's only worth $1,000. You go, "Okay, I want to leave." Oh, we'll go find your keys. The guy just disappears. Salesman comes out and goes, well, have you found a car you like? No, I've decided I'm going to leave. Oh, okay. That guy disappears. Another salesman walks out and goes, have you found a car you like yet? No, I'm trying to leave. Where's my car? Oh, your car's up back. We're looking for the keys right now. And I've actually had them, I've heard stories where they said, we've lost your keys. And there's a famous case, that we talked about a long time ago where, salespeople at dealerships used to have a real reputation for being kind of goofy and crazy. Think about all the bad TV ads you see for local car dealerships. And there was an occasion where a guy came into a dealership and he goes, I'd like to buy a car, but I don't know if you can make a deal with me today, because I'm a harsh negotiator. And the guy goes, is that your trade right there? And he takes the keys and he goes, yeah. And he goes, okay, here's the deal. He goes, I guarantee you I'm going to get you a deal today. In fact, I'm so confident. He takes the keys and throws them on the roof of the dealership. He goes, that's how confident I am that you're going to buy a car today. The guy goes, what if I don't want to buy a car today? The guy goes, no, you're going to buy a car today. He goes, that's how good of a deal I'm going to make you. And he continues offering him bad deals. Finally, the guy goes, look, I want to leave. You can't leave. Your keys are on the roof. So, stories like that, the old hide the keys trick. In addition to speaking with Mr. Whitney, I also contacted former Jalopnik contributor and consumer protection attorney Steve Lehto. He said that he had never handled a false imprisonment case, but he'd heard dealers of doing the hide the keys trick on a number of occasions. I asked both attorneys what customers should do if they find themselves in a situation where a dealer is preventing them from leaving. Both said that dealers will often immediately change their approach once the police are called. They will, trust me. Another possible approach is to take out your cell phone and start recording the conversation. Mr. Whitney says that as long as the other person is aware you are recording, you avoid issues with local laws. And that's true. So you're not going to hide the phone on your body. If it's a one consent state, you could, but you don't need to. Pull the phone out, turn on the recorder, and go, I'm just recording this conversation. Now, why can't I have my keys back? And you'd be surprised what people won't say when they know it's being recorded for posterity, as we say. He also says that once dealers let you leave, you may still have a legal issue. He advises that you email the dealership with instructions to preserve all interior and exterior audio and video recordings on the date the incident happened in anticipation of litigation. And that way, if the stuff disappears, you can say, well, we asked them to preserve it. Now, Tom writes, I'm sure some car shoppers would like to extract a nice settlement from a dealership. I think the best way to manage these situations is to avoid them altogether. And you're preaching to the choir, my friend. I've always said that. The easiest cure is to not get injured. The vast majority of dealers know better, but consumers should get a quote in writing ahead of time and do some research about the dealer via reviews and social media, for what that's worth. Then buyers can focus on the stores that are professional and cooperative. But, it might not be a store policy. It might just be one or two bad salespeople, but you never know. But I've heard of all kinds of crazy stories. And I remember a relative of mine, shall we say, who went car shopping, and he was toying with the idea of buying a car. And he went into a dealership, and a salesman recognized him, comes trotting out, and he goes, oh, you car shopping today? And the guy goes, yeah, I am. Guy goes, going to trade this one in? And he goes, well, if I buy a car, I am. Give me the keys. Keys, jumps in the car, takes it around back, comes running back out, let's go look at cars now. And my friend goes, where's my car? And the guy goes, oh, it's out back, we're going to have it appraised and all that stuff. And he asked several times about where his car was. And the guy kept blowing him off the point where he goes, I actually thought to myself, I may never see my car again regardless. Now, he wound up buying a car. But he said that, and the guy was an attorney, by the way. He said that the way the transaction worked, he's convinced that part of it was that the second they could make his car disappear, the more likely in his mind he was going to think, I need another car. My car's gone. And I'm going to put the link to Tom's article on Jalopnik in the description below the video, so you can go read his article. But I'm going to urge you to read the comments below. I have not read them yet, but I assure you, you're going to see a lot of comments in there, similar to comments you're going to see under this video, where people are going to have horror stories about when they went to trade in cars or went to car shopping. And I've also heard these already on previous videos of mine, where people will say things like, I brought my car in, I was, thinking about buying a car, and next thing I heard, they'd sold my trade-in somehow, or my trade-in had disappeared, it was gone. And they can get ahead of themselves. And the same way they can sell a Corvette that they don't own, or a Bronco that's not for sale, they can also sell a car that someone hasn't traded in yet. And really, really weird stories like that. And it's almost like the car dealership is that thing, and I've used this before, but a car dealership's like that thing in Star Trek that's floating through space, just swallowing up everything in front of it. A car dealership is just this thing that's just buying and selling cars, and it's almost like you can't stop the machine. Once your car's on the lot, it might just get sold, even though it's still your car. So that's a little bit of a different thing. But here we have a situation where a car dealership gets you on the lot. They think they've set the hook, but they haven't. They haven't set the hook. So it's like, what do we do now? This person's going to leave and they haven't bought the car yet. Well, stop them, and I've had some weird experiences car shopping. It's one of the reasons that I complain so much about it. And I remember car shopping when I was younger, before I was an attorney. And I remember once going into a car dealership and looking at a car. I really liked the car. And I thought the price was close, but it wasn't close enough. And it wasn't that far off. It was just, I think it was like $500. And I'm thinking to myself, something, this is weird. I wonder if this guy's going to let this deal fall apart over $500. And so I said, something? I go, you're there, I'm here, we're $500 apart. You're not going to move, neither am I. I go, I'm going to leave. And I stand up and I start walking out. And the guy goes, well, are you going to come back? Or something like that. And I go, if I change my mind. And the guy actually said to me, he goes, Steve, if I had $1 for every single person who left, who said they're going to come back but doesn't, because I'd be a rich man. And I thought, well, that's kind of an interesting and very intimate confession to make as a car salesperson, because you must see people leaving all the time who never come back. And I can tell you why. It's because you're a jerk. The guy was. So, good times car shopping. Apparently some car dealers think it's okay to detain customers against their will. Tom McParland wrote it. He mentions me, for what that's worth. Jalopnik.com. I used to write for them. And Gayla and Jean sent to me. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. When we approve of ourselves, rather than always seeking approval from others, we find happiness.